Now everybody is expecting a market crash. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in Florida because Florida has 300,000 people moving permanently every year down here.
I can see on the streets, to be honest.
And you can see the traffic already.
The traffic, it's
the restaurants, you cannot get a reservation.
Like Monday evening, come on, you barely can get a. Well, we don't want to scare anybody. we don't want to scare, but we can see the difference. We can see people like they increase the population, the number of people.
And this trend is expected to last at least for another 5 to 7 years. Florida is now probably one of the top destinations in the United States.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to one of my episodes in the Spotlight. I'm here today with Marius Stoia, real estate agent. We are in Naples, Florida. Marius, welcome back to my podcast. I'm so happy to see you again.
Nice to see you again, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely, always, it's a pleasure. So,
likewise.
Just a few words about you first, so people know who you are, right? And
sure. I've been in the United States for the last 10 years. Previously, as you remember, I was
in New York, right?
I was at the beginning in New York City. Then once COVID hit us about 2 years ago, we decided to move down here because New York was in a state of shutdown, completely paralyzed. And we had a vacation property here we bought in 2012. As a result, it was just a natural transition to come down here and enjoy the freedom of less restrictions and tropical climate and everything Florida has to offer.
What's not to like here, to be honest? I really love Florida. Every time I'm here, it's just paradise, like you said. So you're serving not just Naples, right? You are
most of the real estate agents, which we call ourselves down here Realtors because we are a member of the National Association of Realtors, versus New York City, where agents are actually considered real estate agents. Here we mostly use the term Realtor. Most of the agents in this area are members of National Association of Realtors, and practically most of the United States it's dominated by the MLS systems. To be part of the MLS system, you have to be part of the National Association of Realtors. Where New York City, by example, it's not part of National Association of Realtors because they do not want to share their listing information with the rest of the country. Just keep it for themselves. Therefore, they cannot call themselves Realtors. Here, 99% of the agents are Realtors. We mostly cover the entire southwest of Florida, which starts at the bottom with Marco Island and goes all the way up to Port Charlotte. But definitely we concentrate on the areas where our offices are located. In my case, my office is in Naples, and therefore most of my transactions are in Naples, Bonita Springs, Estero, Marco sometimes, and eventually in Fort Myers.
In Fort Myers, but not Miami.
I can go to Miami. It's only 2 hours drive.
It's only 2 hours.
But sincerely, I think you'll be better served by one of our agents down there, which we always recommend. Like we have a list of referral agents that we already established a relationship with, that we know they are very competent and knowledgeable, and that's the way we operate.
That's amazing. So we want to talk about the situation right now in this area, because most of the people know Naples and Fort Myers, right? Got hit by a hurricane back in September. So if you can walk us back a little bit, what happened in end of September with the hurricane was pretty bad this year.
You're right. This was one of most dramatic hurricanes we ever seen down here in Florida. Myself, I was here 5 years ago when we were hit by Irma, which was one of the largest hurricanes that ever came down to Florida. Irma was the last hurricane that came on the West Coast 5 years ago in September, same month. Irma had a similar speed, and it was a little bit more predictable than Ian. On the other hand, Irma didn't provoke a surge. The surge was very minimum, were very few areas that got flooded. The damages provoked by Irma were mostly wind damages, where Yan not only had the same speed, about 155 miles an hour, almost 160 miles an hour, which is about 250 kilometers an hour, but also attracted a huge flooding by having a massive surge at the most ferocious area where it landed. The waves were 15, 17 feet high.
Oh, wow.
Scary.
So scary, so scary, yeah.
That's why Fort Myers Beach, which was right in the center, Cape Coral, which is right outside Fort Myers Beach, Sunnyvale Island, Captiva, and Pine Island were decimated. We are not just talking about flooding, but also demolition. Lots of buildings were taken down. Cars destroyed. We didn't see anything like this in the last 100 years.
So scary. So how the real estate market is affected because of the hurricane? I'm pretty sure you can see like some damages in the real estate markets as well, or I don't know, opportunities. I don't know what side.
What really happened is most of the damages were as a result of flooding. Now, most of the areas that got flooded were the coastal areas. We didn't have flooding inland. It was probably about a mile and a half from the coast going inland. Most devastating was in the areas I just mentioned before, Fort Myers Beach, Cape Coral, Sunnyvale, and Captiva. Also, Bonita Springs and Estero. Naples also got some significant flooding in certain areas in the downtown area.
What do you see right now in the real estate market?
Usually, after any hurricane, the market will change.
For sure.
Immediately, will come to a complete stop because the whole area will be paralyzed. Will be no power, no water, no internet, and all the businesses will be shut down. But regardless. And surprisingly, the market will come back to normality in probably less than a month. Now, except the areas that were completely devastated, and I'm talking about coastal area that got this massive flooding, where all these properties either have been destroyed or they cannot be livable at the present moment until major repairs will take place. The rest of the market, it's pretty much the same.
Interesting. So, like a lot of people know, like Florida, it's the stuff for investments, and I'm one of them, right? People are interested in investing in Florida. So, how is the investment market? It's changed, or it's the same, or what are the opportunities right
now? Yen, it could, it could change the dynamics for a short term. Considering lots of people lost their properties, lots of properties are in distress, and as I said, they cannot be livable at this present moment. And some of these people will either look for rebuilding, repairing, or buying something else. This year, beside this event that was quite devastating for the entire southwest of Florida, we also had a slowdown in the market provoked by the high inflation rates and at the same time increased interest rates on mortgages.
Yes.
The first-time home buyers are the most affected.
Interesting.
Because it's much more difficult for a first-time home buyer to qualify for sufficient amount to be able to purchase a house in a very expensive market, actually. For the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen high appreciations in the real estate market. Values went up to 60, 70% just in 3 years.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, we still had an extremely active market. It was a seller's market. The inventory was less than a month, versus right now, we have an inventory that's 2.5 months.
Oh. So two times and a half, pretty much.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Which it can be seen on the market by the number of days on the market. If in January most of the properties in Naples were on average 7 days on the market, in Fort Myers just 5 days on the market.
Oh, okay.
In September, at the end of September, we are looking in Naples at 27 days on the market, and in Fort Myers, 17 days on the market. Not only that, the number of listings continue to drop. As a result of low inventory, despite high interest rates, the prices had some corrections starting May, June. Actually, the market reached its peak at the end of May. And we could see some corrections since, but for the last couple of months, the prices got steady flat. We don't see any more drop because the inventory continued to drop. If in January we were looking at 1,200 listings, new listings, in September we were actually looking at only 350 new listings. And the demand continues to be high, and based on that, prices are keeping steady. It's not yet a market drop that we've seen in 2008 or in 2010, because the economy is still very strong. The employment, it's very good. The unemployment rates are historically low, and despite all these high mortgage rates and high inflation, we are not seeing yet a price reduction, and it's not going to happen yet for probably another year or so.
Okay, so that's very good to know. Back to investments. If you can explain us the type of investments, because it can be like people buying properties and then renting out, or people are just investing. So we talked a little bit, so if you can explain the type of investments, like the real estate investments we are like specifically for.
As I said, investments are probably most of the buyers down here in Florida, even they're buying a property for themselves as a secondary home. Most of them are also using these properties for rental, as a vacation property, and as a result, they are not just a secondary home, they're also an investment property.
Yes.
Now, lots of investors, as you bought a property here for yourself, and when you are not here, you are renting it out to other people. They are vacationing down here. That it's one way to invest in a property in Florida. Another way, it could be you are just buying a rental property. Either it's a single unit or a multi-family property, and you just rent it out. And
like a long term, or it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. You can rent it for the next 5 years or 10 years, or you can resell it if the market appreciates. But we always said, as long as you have a good return on investment,
it's always like
a rental property, it's not really affected by the price valuation of the market. As long as you get your return on your revenue, that's the most important thing, because you have the cash flow. And lots of investors are not looking at the resale value of the property, especially long-term investors. They are looking at the cash flow.
Of course, yes.
Long-term, all these properties eventually will go up in price, despite any corrections.
Okay. So it's pretty safe to invest.
Yes.
We don't know for sure. Nobody knows. But
now everybody is expecting a market crash. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in Florida, because Florida has 300,000 people moving permanently every year down here.
I can see on the streets, to be honest.
And you can see the traffic already.
The traffic, it's
the restaurants, you cannot get a reservation.
Like Monday evening, come on. You barely can get a... Well, we don't want to scare anybody. we don't want to scare, but
and
we can see the difference. We can see people like... They increase the population, the number of people.
This trend is expected to last at least for another 5 to 7 years. Florida is now probably one of the top destinations in the United States. Once because of low taxes, sales taxes are 7%, no income taxes, no state income taxes, and still low cost of living comparing with other states like New York or even Michigan, or not so much Michigan, but Illinois or Massachusetts, California. Florida is still a very attractive state for not just for taxes and lower costs of living, but the climate.
Oh yes, of course.
We have summer all year long. Even in December or January or February, we have temperatures in the
actually the high season
in the
December,
low
January, February. They're like
it's temperatures are in the low 70s, or low 20s if we are talking Celsius, and that's the most busy time of the year down here, when everybody that lives up north comes down here on vacation just to enjoy the warm weather, the sun, the ocean, and it's pool time all day long.
Absolutely. It's simply beautiful.
Nights can be cooler. You just need probably a sweater, but days are warm enough to lay by the pool or walk on the beach and play tennis or and stay outside. Florida also has a very fast-growing economy. There are lots of job opportunities. In the past, we had lots of retirees moving down here, and they still represent the majority for now. But more recently, in the last 2-3 years, we've seen an influx of younger people, young families, single professionals. The demographics are changing.
That's a good thing, right? I think it's a good thing. So I don't know if you want to continue or...
Yeah, I would like to go back to the investors.
Yes, let's talk about investment, because I think people are very interested in learning about investment. And then we will be a little bit more specific for Canadian people if they want to invest in Florida, and Canadian people if they want to move to Florida. So we have two strong subjects, like topics we can talk about, like if they want to move here, there are a few ways, and we can talk about that way. But let's focus on investment for now, and then we can go on the moving to Florida.
As I said, you can buy a secondary home and use it for renting at the same time. You can buy just a rental property, but you also can fix and flip.
Yes, that was not my question. Is anything different right now? Because you said a lot of houses are damaged. People can afford to pay the damage or not? Or what's the situation
what really
right now?
might put some investors, this might not be suitable for everybody. But what happened now after Hurricane Ian, it's the fact that all these coastal properties got damaged in a way or another. Some of them are completely destroyed. Some of them and beyond repair. Some of them still can be repaired but the cost could be tremendous. Not saying that we have a shortage of supply, shortage of labor, higher costs of supply and labor. What can be an advantage under the circumstances is that lots of people that possess these properties didn't have flood insurance, because
they did or they didn't?
They didn't.
They didn't.
All these coastal properties that have been damaged by the hurricane will face pretty steep prices to be repaired or rebuilt, and under the circumstances, lots of homeowners will decide probably not to repair these homes or rebuild these homes, and they would rather sell them as is, get their insurance money, and move over. Unfortunately, lots of these properties that didn't have a mortgage, as a result, didn't require a flood insurance. The flood insurance was optional, and it was at the latitude of the homeowner if he wants to have it or not.
Like an option.
Where if you have a mortgage, the bank wouldn't allow a property to be uninsured for flooding, especially in a flooding zone, because they put at risk the entire value of the property by taking the chance to have a total loss in case the property is not insured for flooding. In this case, because lots of properties down here are paid in full. Lots of these properties were either bought by people that had cash, which was the trend in the last 2 years. 60-70% of the offers were cash offers. But also, lots of these properties being purchased years back, they've been paid off already. These people, most of them, because we had no flood history here in 50 years,
They didn't think probably.
They didn't feel like they should have a flood insurance. They took a chance because the probability to have this kind of flooding was extremely low. On the other hand, flood insurance is extremely expensive. It can range easily for a single family home from $5,000 to $10,000
per year.
Per year. And that's why lots of these people didn't have flood insurance. Now, as a result, none of them will be able to claim any damages that were provoked by the flood. And without the money from the insurance,
it's hard to.
Most of them will be in a situation that they will have no choice than sell these properties.
Okay. Which becomes an opportunity for investors.
And which becomes an opportunity for all these investors.
Absolutely. Okay, so if I want to be an investor, what would you tell me about investment? What are the benefits and what are the risks? Because I'm pretty sure there are some risks as well. It's not just the pink side. It's also the dark side as well.
Okay, we always have pros and cons.
Yes.
In this case, if an investor wants to buy one of these properties, we call them distressed properties. The advantage will be that these properties will be at a good discount. We cannot assess yet how low the discount, how big the discount will be based on how low the prices are going to be, based on how many of these properties will soon be listed on the market.
So then, sorry, they're not listed? You don't see any property yet?
No, these properties are not listed yet because all these homeowners, even if they didn't have
the money,
the flood insurance,
the flood insurance,
they had the home insurance.
Okay.
The home insurance will cover part of these damages. Now, imagine we are talking about 20,000 people that got displaced in Fort Myers alone. They cannot live at the same address, and 2,500 in Naples. Now, the insurance companies are extremely busy assessing the situation. The adjusters are working overtime 7 days a week. It takes at least a couple of more weeks before they can process all these, or some of these claims, not all of them for sure, and probably a few more months to process the entire
and then you'll know
claims and the number of claims before people can make a decision, before they can know exactly how much money they can expect from insurance, how much will cost to fix these properties versus walking away and selling them as is. We do not know for a fact how many of these properties will be on the market in the next couple of weeks, but for sure in the next couple of months we'll see.
You'll have the better picture of
we'll see a better picture. Not only that, the number will increase. The number will increase because people will need to get also quotes on repairs. And not only that, some of these contractors might schedule these jobs 6 months, a year from now. Because we have a very limited number of contractors, which we are dealing with for the last 2 years. People that just wanted to fix their homes or do some renovations.
Like nothing major, nothing urgent, just
something that was just usual business. It took 6 months to 8 months. Now imagine now how much longer, and the shortage of labor and supply will really slow down. Not saying that the municipalities will need a lot more time to process all these building permits, and all these building permits will delay the process even longer. And in that respect, even these properties on the coastal areas, which were the most expensive before,
yes, I remember those houses,
will come at a pretty good discount. Eventually, the investor will need to be prepared to deal with all these obstacles and delays and setbacks that I just mentioned before.
Oh wow, you don't. I mean, I wouldn't know, right? For me, it was like, oh my God, that was the hurricane, the flooding, people lost houses. But we are seeing so many ramifications. Like they're not the supplies are not there. Like the constructors are not there. Like we see more and more problems than we thought it is. It's not just the hurricane time. It's after, like a few months, years maybe after it happened.
No, the process of recovery in Naples might take probably a few months to a year, where in
I mean, it's clean because I
don't think the most extreme situations might take up to a year based on what I just said. Now, considering that Naples didn't have too many buildings that were completely destroyed, if they had any.
Like Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, unfortunately, and Estero, Bonita to some extent, and the other surrounding areas in Lee County, part of the Fort Myers area, they had lots of buildings on the coastal side. They were either older buildings, wood frames, mobile homes, where the destruction was a lot worse, where people lost their homes, or they are the ones that are still in place. Lots of them are beyond repair.
I understand.
And that will change the picture in these areas in the future, because the new buildings that will have to be rebuilt or built from scratch will have to be based on the new building codes, using the most advanced materials and new technology, and definitely will be concrete. And considering all that, the old picture we had with all these shacks and old buildings and terraces on the beach, that might disappear. We might see more high rises, more sophisticated condos and communities with much better amenities. But of course, all these properties
comes with a price tag.
Will come at a much higher price, because despite any hurricane, people will still love to be in Florida, to live close to the water, and they are not going to be discouraged by this hurricane. They haven't been discouraged by any other hurricane we had here previously.
My understanding is, we don't know for a fact right now what is in the market based on what happened with the hurricane. Probably in a few months. That's my understanding, right?
A few, we're gonna see some
in a few weeks, maybe
some
not right now.
Some new listings coming pretty soon, probably in the next couple of weeks to a month.
Okay,
but
which is not bad, because people are still debating the idea of investing, so it's great. But let's talk a little bit about people from Canada if they want to invest in Florida, for example.
Canadians can easily buy properties in Florida. They always been welcome down here. We'll have a large number of Canadians that either live here, some of them full-time actually.
They moved here.
Believe it or not, especially retirees.
Well, I believe it. I would move here.
But also, more recently, we have this advantageous visa program called E2 that allows foreign investors and business people from countries that have established trade and business relations with United States. It has to be a treaty in place for these investors to be allowed and qualify for this type of visa. But this allows them to buy a business anywhere in the United States, including Florida. And not only that, this gives them a permanent resident status for 5 years at a time. This visa can be renewed every 5 years as long as the requirements and conditions are met.
And they cannot sell the business. They are buying the business, but they cannot sell the business, right?
No, the business is the main condition to qualify for this visa. Practically, the visa is based on the business nature, also the revenue of the business, the stability of the business. Now, the business, it doesn't have to be, by all means, existing business. It can be also a brand new business that a foreign investor can start, but will be probably much safer to buy an existing business, like a franchise or an established business that has already a proof of income and a good financial history that will give enough assurance to the officials from immigration that will be a long-lasting investment. And not only that, that can be a investment that can be improved, a business that can generate more jobs, more revenue, which will be part of the qualifying process. But regardless, beside the fact that you can move your entire family to United States, in addition to yourself or the persons that will operate the business directly, you can bring your kids up to 21 years old with you. Kids will qualify based on the same visa. Once they will age 21, unfortunately they cannot stay any longer in the United States based on this visa. If they continue their studies here, they can continue with an F1 visa, by example, which is a student visa. Not saying that some of these people that in the first place they apply for an E2 visa, eventually at one point they can try to apply for a green card, which a green card will give them a permanent resident status and will fast track their qualification for an eventual citizenship. But regardless, with just an E2 visa, you can renew it every 5 years, as long as that business that was originally the reason that you apply for this visa and constitute the main factor in receiving the E2 visa, as long as this business is still in place and it's still profitable, this visa can be renewed indefinitely.
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, indefinitely.
Okay, that's good to know. So, in Florida, for example, because they need constructors, right? People are welcome to come here to work, right? To open a business or buy a business as a,
Southwest Florida, especially now, after all the devastation we had with Hurricane Ian, will require lots of reconstruction in the next 3 to 5 years.
So it's an opportunity, actually.
And there are contractors moving down here and coming down here, not just from other states or other countries eventually, but are moving from other sides of Florida.
Oh, okay.
I met contractors from Miami the other days. They're already working here because of the shortage we have. Of course, this will be an opportunity for contractors, but it doesn't mean that if you are a contractor, you by all means need to buy a construction.
The question is, if someone is interested, can talk to you? Can you recommend somebody? Like, do we need a lawyer if we want to apply?
Of course. In order to start the process for an E2 visa, in this case, for, let's say, Canadians that want to move down here permanently, reside here, work here, and obtain this visa, first step that I would recommend would be to talk with a law firm that specializes in E2 visas, in immigration firm. First of all, the firm can be from anywhere in the United States.
So you don't need a recommendation. You just pick up the phone or.
Oh, I can recommend a few.
Yes,
I can recommend a few firms.
Okay.
But as I said, it doesn't have to be from Florida. It can be from California. It can be from New York.
But you can move to Florida, so you can use
regardless of where you are buying the business. This is a federal law.
Okay, and then you can move wherever you decide to move.
The law firm can be anywhere in the United States. The application will be based on the location and of the business. And that's how it's going to work. Once you sort out the requirements for this visa, because you have to make proof of funding. You have to have substantial funding to buy this business. Let's say the business is $200,000 or $300,000. Let's say $300,000. You will have to have at least $200,000.
Okay.
You don't have to have the entire amount, but you have to have about 70% of the total purchase price.
Yes.
Not only that, usually the value of the business should start somewhere around $100,000. That will be the minimum.
The minimum. Okay, it's good to have some numbers. This is actually a great topic, and maybe I can find someone, actually like a lawyer, who is willing to give a little more information. But I want to ask about Canadians, if they need a mortgage, if they want to buy a property, but they don't actually have the money, or they have portion of the money. If any way they can qualify in US for mortgages, or I don't know if it's any other option to borrow money.
I think the advantage for Canadians in particular is that TD Bank is one of the most reputable banks, not just in Canada, but in the United States as well.
That's good to know.
It's one of the top banks in the United States, which it's growing. They dominate the business in many urban areas. Believe it or not, their policy, their business plan when they started business down here was extremely aggressive. They're very prone to any sort of business, and Canadians, they can take advantage because TD Bank, it's a Canadian-based bank.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And for a Canadian investor or buyer, it doesn't even have to be an investor. You can just buy a house here for just your personal use. You benefit from a special mortgage program for Canadians.
That's amazing. It's good to know.
The only thing you need to have in order to qualify, you need to have an established relationship with TD Bank in Canada.
Okay, you cannot just open a bank account at TD and then...
No, you have to have an established relationship,
a
little history with TD Bank,
Yeah.
but the minimum is 6 months.
Oh, okay, so it's doable.
It's doable, but once you have this established relationship in Canada, it can be either, a saving account, a checking account, you have a mortgage with TD Bank, doesn't matter, an investment, any type of relationship with TD Bank in Canada that it's minimum 6 months will automatically qualify you for a mortgage in the United States. In addition to that, you can buy as a private buyer, or you can buy as a business.
Okay.
Lots of people do not understand the difference between buying privately under your name or using a limited liability partnership or a limited liability corporation, an LLC, which is the most common, or a corporation or a trust.
Okay.
Actually, buying as a business gives you a lot more protection because you have a limited liability. The advantages and disadvantages between a private mortgage and business mortgage are when you have a private mortgage, you have maximum liability. You have total exposure to any lawsuits. Where when you buy as a business, you have a limited liability and you are liable just with the business.
Okay.
The interest rates on a private mortgage are higher than on a business mortgage.
Interesting.
Not only that, but I think the packages for a business mortgage are better suited for Canadians. Not only that, you can also have a business in Canada that can own the business in the United States as long as are the same owners.
Okay, so it's like a branch. So
like even let's say that you have a limited liability here in the United States, by having a business in Canada that owns the business in the United States, you have a limited liability in Canada as well.
That's very good to know. It's a great information. Thank you so much for this is amazing, and I'm pretty sure you'll have calls from people asking more information, because probably there are like a few details. And do you have some numbers regarding the rates, the interest rates to the bank, roughly?
To be very brief, first of all, you have to have a minimum 700 points on the credit score.
Okay. Yes.
Have a income tax returns showing a good income for minimum 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
A list of your funding, where your down payment is going to come from, and what assets do you have. Will have to be a 30% down.
At least, or it's minimum?
Minimum 30% down.
Okay, so this is the minimum.
And that will go on the appraised value of the property. If the appraised value of the property will be less than the purchase price, you have to cover the appraisal gap, whatever that might be. And the loan will be for 20 years amortization.
20.
20. 20 in case you buy as a business. If you buy private, you can have it for 5, 10, 20 or 30 years amortization.
A little bit longer.
Yes.
That's the benefit of having like a private.
Yes. That's the only advantage with a private. You can get a much longer amortization if you need that. That will eventually diminish your payment. Your payment, the longer the amortization, the lower the payment.
Yeah, but if you have a lower interest rate as a business,
but
you might want to choose that version, because you don't want to have a mortgage for so long.
Absolutely. Not saying that any of these mortgages, regardless of your age, you can obtain a 30-year mortgage.
Even if you're
if you are 90.
No way.
You can verify this with TD Bank, but even if you are 90 years old, you still can get a mortgage for a 30-year amortization, as long as you meet the other criteria.
Criteria, of course, but still.
But the rates, now here we are talking about the rates, where for a private mortgage, the 30-year amortization now, it's somewhere around 7.5, based on your credit score, based on your history. The 20-year amortization on a commercial loan, the business loan or mortgage, it's at 6%.
Okay. Yes, so it makes sense.
It can be easily 1.5% or even more. Now, I know another lender that will offer a program that it's not just for U.S. investors, but also for foreign investors that will have E2 visa, by example. We just talked about E2 visa. An E2 visa holder, even if it's a foreign resident, will will qualify for this program. It's called home renovation mortgage.
Okay.
And you'll practically get a mortgage for 75% of the improved value of the property. That means the value of the property after you renovate it.
Okay.
Not for the value
at
this very moment when you purchase the property, but the value the property will have when you'll finish your improvements, which will give you the money.
And you have to actually do the renovation. You just can't just take the money and
no. The bank wouldn't release all the funding until the renovation is completed.
You have to
but that will give you the money to pay for the renovation itself.
That's great. That's great.
Besides the fact that you still need to have 25% down.
Well,
you get the additional cash from the bank if you don't have it, where otherwise you're probably going to need to have a pretty hefty amount to cover all these costs, because the more depressed a property would be, the lower probably the purchase price, but the higher the cost of renovating that house.
So that's great, because we don't see the listings now, but we will see the listings in the future. So if we decide to buy a property that was damaged by the hurricane, then we can apply for that mortgage, the mortgage that helps us improving
it only if you are a permanent resident, and either you are a green card holder, a citizen, or a E2,
or the business visa.
The business visa, the E2, and there will probably be a few other visas, the H1B1 visa, or maybe the L1 visa that needs to be verified. What I did at this point, I verify for E2 visa holders, because seems to be a new trend with lots of Canadians buying businesses down here and moving permanently here. And based on that, they would qualify. It's not necessary for everybody, but again, you can still qualify for a regular mortgage program with TD Bank, either for 20 years as a business or a private for any amortization you choose.
So this is another option for mortgage. So that's good to have more options.
But unfortunately, the rates went up. They pretty much double. If you can imagine, in January we had 3% on a 30-year mortgage. Now we are over 7%.
Yeah.
And if somebody qualify in January for $300,000 with the same income at the newer rates at 7% or more, they will qualify now just for $190,000. That's what takes the first-time buyers out of the market, because very few of them now can afford qualify for enough a mortgage to purchase a house. Beside these opportunities, considering all these distressed properties as a result of the flooding from Hurricane Ian, I do not recommend this to everybody.
Of course.
Because buying a distressed property and trying to fix it and flip it or keep it, it's not necessarily an easy task. If you don't live here permanently, this might be extremely difficult to manage and control. I think, for most of Canadians, despite increased value of the real estate market in the last couple of years, and a low inventory that we are facing at this moment, which maintains the property values at a pretty steady price. We haven't seen too much of a correction between the peak of the market in May and September, October. Prices in Florida are still not at the highest possible level. They are still fairly affordable, considering that you are still benefiting from lots of advantages, either by just coming down here and enjoying the weather and living in a tropical climate, but also from the revenue that rentals are generating more recently, which rentals increase tremendously in the last 2-3 years.
Oh yes.
Just in the last year alone, we are looking at 35% increase, and more recently with a shortage of homes, with all these displaced properties after the hurricane, not saying about the ones they are still coming down here to Florida, either to vacation or to move permanently here, and lots of them are just renting. Rentals down here are tremendously profitable and represent a very good, steady, long-term investment, because will continue to generate a very good cash flow.
And this is the bottom line, actually.
And
this is the bottom line. If we can invest, make some money, enjoy the weather, It's the perfect recipe for.
And I'm telling you something. You versus the mortgages we have in Canada. American mortgages, most of them wouldn't charge you any penalty if you terminate your mortgage agreement sooner than the term you had originally set in place. Doesn't matter, it's 30 years or it's 10 years or it's 5 years, you can sell your house in 6 months and you still pay no penalties.
So you don't have to pay any penalties. That's good news.
And not only that, let's say you sign up now for a mortgage for 30 years and the rates in 2 years will go down to 4% or a much lower rate than today. You can refinance, no penalties.
With the new rates.
With the new rates.
Perfect.
That tells you something. You shouldn't miss this market just because you might think the rates will go down. No, you can buy it at the present time rates and you can still take advantage of having a property here, renting it out, generate a revenue and make a profit. But also you can always pay it off, sell it, or refinance it at no penalty.
That's amazing. That's amazing information. Thanks so much. We will be back for sure because I'm pretty sure we'll have more questions from our audience. I will list the information. But by the way, where people can find you if they want to talk to you, like a phone number or email address or a website, or where it's easiest way.
The best way to reach out to me, it's either through text message.
Okay, I will. It's going to be on the screen by the time.
If you can put my number on the screen,
we will.
646-808-5702.
It's even better.
Or you can email me at askmarius@gmail.com or askmarius@kw.com. KW, it's standing for Keller Williams.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Marius. Again, amazing information. Now I have a few ideas myself, so. We'll be back for sure with more information.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I'm sorry, it was so much information, and maybe it took a little bit longer to give your audience the proper information. But I think in order to understand and get the full picture, you really need to get more details than probably I even managed to present in such a short period of time.
Yes, we will probably next time we will take one topic at a time and then we will dissect it in all the details, and probably it's more efficient that way.
I always enjoy being invited by you to your show, and I'm hoping your audience will enjoy my information as well.
I have no doubt.
And we are waiting for you down here in Florida. We are sure if you come down here, you might regret not trying sooner. And
that's the only regret.
It's never too late.